This is who I was, but it's definitely not who I am. Welcome to Vegas Prison Stories. So when it comes to the Nevados, formerly Nevada Trece, you can chop it up with as many Nevados as you like. I would say probably 95% of them, when you talk to them, you ask them where it all started, they can't tell you. They don't know that story. I've been in contact with one of the men that started Nevada Trece. It was him, and I'm going to call him K-Dog in this because he asked me not to use his real handle. It was K-Dog and Grumpy. They are the ones who started Nevada Trece on the Ely Yard. So let's dive into this story. For a lot of you, even Nevados, you probably don't know. Now we're going to find out. We're going to get his story out there, and everybody can kind of at least know where all this movement was born. So K-Dog was 18 years old when he went into the Nevada prison system for a murder, and he told me he did not commit it. Now, after talking to him, he has no reason to lie because he is now out on parole. He's on life parole. Whether he did it or not, it doesn't matter because he had already served the time for it. So what would the point be in saying that you did not commit the murder? Or you did, like, why would he lie about it? He did the time on it. So when he says he did not commit this murder, I absolutely believe this man. The first prison that he landed on was Indian Springs. They called it Indian Springs back then because High Desert wasn't built. Now it's Southern Desert Correctional, and it's right there by High Desert. It's the Southern Yard. When he was arrested, he had two options. He could have snitched and probably gotten a way lighter sentence or even gotten off. Obviously, when he says that he did not commit the murder, basically what he's saying is, I could have told on the dude that actually did it, and I could have walked. Obviously, the other guy would have caught the time, but he didn't. He stood his ground. He stood by being the man in the game that he was in, and he took this time. One of the first things that he says, I love 28th Street. I will always love 28th Street. This is a recurring theme as I'm talking to him. It overwhelms the conversation to points where he's just, the man loved 28th Street. That was his life. Now he's hit every single facility in Nevada, in the NDOC. Every prison. He's been there. He was a shooter. He was never a hustler. He was never out there making moves like that. He did not care about money and cars. Things like that. In his own words, he was ignorant and he was poor. His mindset back then was, I don't give a fuck. And his only values were respect, family, loyalty, those core group values when you're involved in something like 28th Street. Now, when he first hit the yard in Southern Desert, he was sued. All of them were. Then the MRUs came along. But for these originals, they all have these 13 tattoos. Now that's important because that's the reason why they went with the name Nevada Trece when all of this unfolded and they became a group. That's why they kept the 13, because they had already had these 13s tattooed on them. Now in 1994, it started to really go down with the MRUs. This is when it all started to bubble up. There was a guy that needed to be hit. K-Dog's number was called. It was his turn to do it. Him and another man strapped up. They're going to go to church. They're going to get this dude, but they never get a shot at it. Now, by his words, this is what started the problem. It became a big issue over them not being able to get this guy. And that's when he started to feel a certain way. But he kept programming. Now you have these MRUs. MRUs are pushing the line. They're the ones that really started off this whole Nevada pride, this Nevada fever, if you will, when it comes to the Nevada car. They were the original OG Nevada car. The problem is, and K-Dog will freely admit this, it was run by pieces of shit. These dudes had bad charges. These dudes were dope fiends. Obviously, he didn't know this, or else he would have never even thought about running with them. Basically being a sympathizer. Now, most of these MRUs, they were older, so they were big homies to a lot of these youngsters that were coming in. So they were able to get into their heads, get into their minds, really twist things, and make it about this Nevada thing. And it blew up. It was getting bigger. The MRUs, I told you guys in the Nevada Trece video, the MRUs get moved up to Ely. Well, K-Dog goes up to Ely. Now at this time, Lovelock is a new prison. It's opened up. Half of it's GP, half of it is protective custody. This is where a lot of the MRU victims were going, was over to Lovelock's new yard, things like that. The MRUs were a function. They were really a problem when it came to the southern yards. When it came to any yards, they were pushing their thing. So now all MRU sympathizers are on the no good list. They cannot function with the sword anymore, and it's on site. KDog, like I said, does not give any shit about MRUs. He did not like them then, and he does not like them now. And he says that the only reason that he followed them was because they were 28th Street, and he's 28th Street. So it was more of a hood thing than it was an ideology thing in the beginning. It was, these are my people. This is where I belong. Now in about 1999, KDog links up with Grumpy. This is the day. This is the day that puts everything into motion for Nevada Trece, now Nevados. Grumpy has been described as being a savage, as being one of the most dangerous men in all of Nevada prison history. This guy, he's about that. At the time that all of this goes down, Grumpy is an MRU. He's in the MRUs. Now, KDog, being from 28th Street, he has a lot of pull on the streets. So now you have KDog, who's a smart man with a lot of pull and a lot of following, and you have Grumpy, who is this savage. Now you have these two men, and you have them together in one place. KDog starts to see. He starts to see with the MRUs. He starts to see their ways. He does not like them, and he gets into Grumpy's ear. He tells Grumpy, why are you messing with these dudes? They got those Jared from Subway charges. They're dope fiends. All of these terrible things. These are the heads for your car. These are the dudes you're following. KDog tells him, we should be running the MRUs. We need to be running it. We need to make this a Nevada thing. And we need to make it something that people can be proud of. Because right now, with this leadership, these dudes ain't working out, man. These dudes are, they're no good. So KDog and Grumpy shoot a kite to the leadership of the MRUs. Basically, in that kite, they tell the MRU heads, get down or get laid down. This is the very moment that they put the biggest target on their back. So the MRUs do exactly what you think that they would do. They put a hit on Grumpy, and they put a hit on KDog. So in return, Grumpy hits one of the MRUs, hits him in the cell, stabs him like 60-something times. I mean, brutal. Just savagely takes this guy out. Doesn't tell the cops right away until the guy starts stinking. From what I hear, somebody that's not KDog told me that this guy finally, once the body started stinking, told the cops, you need to get this guy out of here. He's stinking my cell up. So being that they still had these 13 tattoos on them, this is the day Nevada Trece was born. This was the it. That hit right there made Grumpy no longer an MRU. KDog and Grumpy formed their own group, and they had a handful of men. They were sent to another yard, and they programmed with the Norteños. Now, it's important to say that they weren't programming under the Norteños, and they weren't programming with the Norteños like that. They were just on the same yard and basically weren't trying to have any kind of smoke between the two groups. They were functioning on the same yard. Because of this, the rumor started swirling that this new group was actually an offshoot of the Norteños, and because that they wore red. But the only reason that they wear red is to buck the system from the Southerners. So basically, it's like a middle finger to the blue rags, in the best way I can say it. So obviously, this is a bad spot for both of these men. The men that went with them to this yard were people like Keebler, Sparky from 28th Street. That's how they come into this picture. They followed Grumpy and KDog in this movement. Now you have 6 men. You have Grumpy, you have K-Dog, you have Keebler, you have Sparky, you have 2 other men. I do not have the names for those 2 other men. That's what you have. That's Nevada Trece. That's the beginning. K-Dog he's the one. He's the head. He's got the keys to it. Because he's the one that actually has the pull from the streets. The pull from 28th Street. Grumpy is the hitter. So it's like John Gotti, Sammy the Bull, basically. And they start with the 702 movement. They have carrying 702 on their back when it comes to the Mexican car. Now, in K-Dog's own words, this is the most stressful time he's ever had in his life. They had just hit an MRU. Now they have it coming. They're targeted from the MRUs. They're targeted from the sewer. From all sides. They're watching their backs. People want them. They want them dead. At this time, the AG picks up the charges for the hit that Grumpy did. And Grumpy is sent away. He's sent to face trial for this murder. That leaves K-Dog to look over Keebler, Sparky, and a couple of other guys probably at this point. That's what they have. And he's the one. It's all on his shoulders. All of this pressure, the hits that are put on him, that everybody wants him. That's a lot of weight for a 30-year-old man. K-Dog is now 15 years into his life sentence with parole. He's coming up on parole dates. He has all this going on. The people that defected from the original, say, 15 that had left the yard with them after Grumpy did the hit, now they're all turning on them. They're putting paperwork on them. They're snitching. Also at this time, K-Dog had just gotten married. So he has all of this on his shoulders. Not only that, the A-dubs had just been indicted. So now they know that the Nevada prison system is under scrutiny, and they're going to be coming. They're going to be looking for any group that they can indict. Anything going on. Also at this time, Nevada had just started a new program. It's called the Dropout Program. So K-Dog's at a crossroads. Stay in this. I see it through. I definitely don't get parole. I'm absolutely going to pick up more life sentences. I probably might get killed. My partner is fighting a life sentence right now in the courts. I have these people underneath me that are rambunctious. They're wild. Do I go that way? I have a life on the outside. I have a wife waiting for me. I can get my parole. I can live my life. Do I go that way? K-Dog makes the hardest decision of his life. While Grumpy's away, K-Dog rolls it up. Now, he didn't have to tell on anybody. Who are you going to tell on? Who are you going to debrief on? This group isn't even recognized yet. They're not even a thing. They look like 6 guys that just got rolled off the yard. And they can't be around the sewer. Nobody's heard the words Nevada Trece before. This is not a thing. He has nobody that they even want him to roll over on. So he's free and clear on that. And he goes. And he goes to Lovelock. And he goes into this program. At this point, that leaves Keebler. And that leaves Sparky. And by all accounts, everybody says Keebler and Sparky are the ones who started Nevada Trece. But that's not true. Grumpy gets convicted on the 2nd-degree murder. He catches a life sentence. It's 20 to life. I looked it up. It's right here. He's looking at parole soon. So when Grumpy gets back from facing this charges, he gets back to the NDOC and he's sent up to the SHU. They just cut him out. Keebler and Sparky cut him out. K-Dog's gone so that they can be the dudes. And they made it look like they're the ones who started it. They are absolutely not the ones who started it. The truth is, one has moved on with his life and is on parole. The other one's in the SHU. I think he's in High Desert right now, completely cut out of the deal. So 6 years later, at 36 years old, K-Dog gets his parole. He's out, he's married, he's living his life. Now Grumpy's first parole hearing is in April 2028. Will he get it? I don't know. I don't know what kind of program Grumpy's running. I don't know much about Grumpy. K-Dog's obviously on parole. Obviously he doesn't want me to put his real handle out there or show his picture, which I'm definitely with. I'm not going to put that man out there like that. In his own words, when you say K-Dog, the people in the know will know who I am. The people who don't know shouldn't know. Because he doesn't need somebody to come across the video, see that was him, say a job or church or any of that, and now his cover's blown. Keebler is up for parole. I've talked about him. He's over in Red Onion right now, somehow catching a parole. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Keebler. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I don't know if he's still pushing that line, if he's created another group, or if he went out of state and he laid down that. He said, look, I'm over all of this. We'll see. Only time will tell. Sparky is a lot more of a mystery. In the last video, I told you guys that Sparky was paroled. I cannot find him anywhere in NDOC. But I did find this. This is an article that was written saying that Sparky was finally charged with the murder. But I can't find him anywhere. And if he was charged and convicted in Nevada for that murder, it would still show up on the website. That's just the way it is. Even if they move him out of state, it shows up on the website. So I'm working overtime to try and figure that part out. I don't know. It's a mystery. If anybody here knows where Sparky is for sure and can show me proof of where he is, let me know. I would love to be able to put that to rest. Now, what happened after K-Dog? What happened from the time that he rolled it up and left and Sparky and Keebler took the realm of this movement? I'm still working on that too. But I don't want to hear from just normal people that did a little bit of time. You know, if you're in Nevada and you did a couple of years on a Nevada yard in a Nevada unit, respect. But you don't offer anything for me. And I don't mean to be like that, but I want to hear from the men that know that we're running things. That's how I like to get my videos. That's how I like to get my information. I will not accept information from just anybody. I will find out who you are. You contact me, I'll find out. I'll know more about you than your own mother will within the day. I promise that. So with that being said, this is how it all started. It started with those two men, Grumpy and K-Dog. And after talking to K-Dog, I hope the absolute best for him. I'm glad to kind of get his story out there because obviously the story was put out that it was Keebler and it was Sparky. They basically cut them out of the history of all of this. Who's going to dispute it? Who's going to say that's not true? They weren't there, you know? I mean, these guys just hijacked the whole movement, cut Grumpy right out, you know? K-Dog walked away from it. He didn't want nothing to do with it. Actually, it's pretty smart, you know? He got out before it became this big thing. But much respect, much respect. He got involved near a movement, noticed that the people running it were faulty, did what he had to bail out of it, and start his own thing. It takes nuts. It takes balls. Well, thank you for coming to Vegas Prison Stories. I hope you guys at least find some information and enjoy this. And until next time, have a great day. This is who I was, but it's definitely not who I am. Welcome to Vegas Prison Stories.